Hello and welcome back to C# Basics. Today we're going to move on to operators. Now if you haven't seen the first video, I suggest you go and check that out. It's in the description below, there'll be a link down there. But if you have, let's get started. So first thing we're going to do, I've just opened up Visual Studio, clicking on the icon down here. And I'm going to create a new project down the bottom. And same as we did before, I'm going to create a console application because they're nice and simple to work with what we're doing. Console app 1 is fine, and we can leave it in the default location. Okay, so today we're talking about operators. If you've watched the first video on variables, you would have seen me use the assignment operator. So we can do things like integer x gets 10. We'll go into that a little bit later. I just want to talk about firstly some of the more basic operators, which are called the arithmetic operators. So an operator is a symbol that performs a mathematical or logical manipulation on our data. And the most sort of basic ones are arithmetic operators. And they are, so we have addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and modulus. Now I'm just going to put these into a comment so we can see those. So addition, the symbol for that is a plus. Subtraction, symbol for that is a minus. Multiplication, symbol for that is times, and division, and modulus. Cool. So those are our basic arithmetic operators. For those of you that don't know, doing a double slash like this is what's called a comment. So when the program runs and the compiler goes through and reads our code, it will ignore any of these lines. So it's a way for a programmer to leave little notes for himself or herself, or for your team members. So these are our basic arithmetic operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and modulus. I'm sure you can figure out what these first four are going to be doing just from looking at them, but we're going to do some examples anyway. If I do integer x gets assigned 10 and integer y gets assigned 4, and then I do console write line x minus y and console read line. So write line, as you saw in the first video, will print whatever's in between the brackets. That'll print that out to the screen. And read line is just a way to hold the console in that spot until you've pressed a key, or so. When we press enter or something, it'll carry on. But so if we run this, you'll see, cool. So it prints out 6 to the screen. And if we press enter, it closes the program, closes the console. So we could even store this operation in another variable if we want. So we don't have to do the actual operation in here. We can do integer z gets assigned x minus y. Cool. And then when we just print z, that'll do the same thing, but it's a neater way of doing it. It's being stored inside of z now. Run that, and we get 6. So from here, it's easy to figure out what addition, subtraction, multiply, and division are going to do. If I change this to a multiply, it's going to multiply those two variables. Change it to add, it's going to add them together and give us 14. I just want to show you something though, or something to be aware of with division. let's say I say x gets 16 and y gets 5, and in my z variable I store x divided by y, what do you think will get printed out to the screen? Probably not what you think it's going to be. Okay. So if anyone was able to do that in their head, they would have figured out it's 3.2. And if you do it on a calculator, it is 3.2. But let's have a look here. What does our program do with it? So it only gives us 3. So what's it done with the 0.2? So if I go back here, and remember from our first lesson, these data types, so these are all integers. You can only store whole numbers inside of integers. So I can't store a 16.5, I can't store a 16.3333, or whatever. I can only store 1, 2, 3, 4, 100, 101, like whole, complete numbers. So when we do this operation, the program rounds that down for us. If I wanted to see the decimal points, we can change our data types to be float. And float stands for floating point number. So floats can store numbers that have decimal points in them. So if we run this again, so you'll get the actual 3.2. So what the fudge is this last one, the Modulus Operator. So for anyone watching who is a mathematician, you'll know what this is doing. But for me, when I first saw this, I was like, oh, cool, it's going to work out percentages for me automatically. It doesn't do that, sadly. But what it does do is, so the modulus operator is more commonly known as the remainder operator. And what it does is it will return the remainder of an integer division. So if I had 25 and 7, and I say x modulus y, this should return me the number 4. This 4. That's because 7 doesn't exactly go into 25, but it does go in there, you know, up to 21, and then the remainder of that, there's 4 remainder. So that's what modulus does, is it returns the remainder. Now at day-to-day programming, you won't come across this very often, but I will show you some examples where it does become quite helpful, where you need to figure out if something is divisible by 2 or things like that. You'll see that later on, but just bear in mind that that's not for percentages like I first thought. Right, last thing to talk about are the assignment and increment operators. So I've spoken about already, this is the assignment operator, the equals sign. So it will take whatever is on the right of it and assign it to the variable on the left. So when you read this, you should think of it as x gets assigned 25. Okay, nice and easy. And then you have increment and decrement operators. And they're basically a shorthand way to increase or decrease a variable. So if I had, get rid of these, let's say x is 25, but I want to increase it by 1. I can do x plus plus, and that will take it up to 26. Or we can do x minus minus, and that will decrease it by 1. So this is essentially shorthand for, let's just get rid of that and not show you this. That 26. So this is essentially shorthand for this. 1. So it's a shorthand way of typing out x gets assigned whatever x already is plus 1. So in this case it's x gets assigned 25 plus 1. So it's just an easy way of doing that. And so plus plus is the shorthand for adding 1, or minus minus for taking away 1. But what if we want to do the same thing but with a different value, so not just with 1? You can do x plus equals 2. And that's exactly the same as what we had before, but it's doing x gets x plus 2. So in this case, it's x gets assigned 25 plus 2, so it'll be 27. So these two things are exactly the same, just a quicker way of doing it. You're saying x gets itself plus 2, or whatever you want, plus 30, doesn't matter. And that works for minus as well, like that. So minus equals, and we'll take 30 off of that. You'll use these quite a lot, so plus plus and plus equals, when you start doing for loops and conditions and things, and we'll get into those in later videos. But yeah, important to be aware of those. All right, that's everything that we wanted to cover in this video. So thank you for watching. As always, please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.